So, hi, Look Guys Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
Throwback Thursday. Guess what? Recorded on a Thursday, posted on a Monday.
No.
It can't be stopped.
This can't be true.
It's unbelievable.
Are you being serious right now?
We can't keep doing this.
Okay. I'll accept it.
Yeah.
I'll accept it. Mm-hmm.
We're back. Pierce the Veil, continuing along with the Pierce the Veil discography that we've been diving into every week for the past several weeks. Coming up here towards the end, only got one more album left after we complete this review that we are actively recording right now.
In this moment, yeah.
And then we'll be on to the next discography. Today we're chatting about their 2016 album Misadventures, which for the longest time I thought was going to be the last Pierce the Veil record because we didn't hear from them for several fucking years after this album came out.
Yeah, it was for 6 years?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It took a long time to get the next one. So this was the last record for a while. For a while, when I was into Pierce the Veil big time, it was just the 4 records. That was it. That was the discography, and there was no signs of anything else coming anytime soon. The only life we had heard from the band was one live session video during the pandemic. That was it. That was all we had heard.
That was 4 years after Misadventures. So that was what?
Well, they toured hardcore off this record, and then they disappeared.
Okay.
But I said before the Selfish Machines review really kicked off that we were jumping into what I think is an immaculate 3-album run by the Pierce the Veil. And ultimately with Collide with the Sky being the album, it's a scene staple and a staple in their discography for a reason. There's a reason why when they play live, a majority of the songs are pulled from that record. It's genuinely a timeless album. But definitely a tough record to follow up with, because I from the get-go, that record was getting recognition and attention. King for a Day was massive from the day it came out. It is not like that album 10 years later had a moment. That album has had its moment for a long time now. So following that album up, definitely ballsy and a tough go. There was 4 years between that album and this one that we're talking about. But I think Misadventures is really solid. It does shy away a little bit from kind of the sonic that the band was building with the first 3 records. It kind of see a natural progression and natural growth from a flair for the dramatic to a Collide with the Sky. All of those records had to exist to get to Collide with the Sky. They honed in on a sound that ultimately was explored with a flair for the dramatic, honed in on a little bit with Selfish Machines, and really refined with Collide with the Sky. This record kind of bounces around a little bit and does some things a little bit differently. And I like it for that reason. I love the way it opens with Dive In. It just throws you headfirst in, and I love that. It's aptly titled. Texas is Forever is a fucking banger. Not to pick out the singles as the peak of the album, but they stacked Circles and Today I Saw the Whole World on top of each other, and it don't get much better than that. Circles is such a catchy song. Little bit
I was
more
just singing it.
Yeah, a little bit more pop focused writing than we've seen on previous albums, and that kind of goes across the board with this record, where the songwriting is a little bit more pop focused, which is fine. The songs are still the post-hardcore kind of sound that you expect from Pierce the Veil, but there's a heavier emphasis on the choruses, which I think is kind of the progression that you had to go with after creating a classic scene record, because your chances of doing that again right after the last one, tough. And Today I Saw the Whole World, that song is such a big song. It's not a super heavy song, but it is such a big anthemic song.
Everyone knows it.
Yes, and I love that song. I also really like Floral and Fading. The way it closes with Song for Isabel is a nice way to kind of lull it off, could tie things together very nicely. I fuck with that. Gold Medal Ribbon, Bedless, Phantom Power and Ludicrous Speed. Like, I've named every single song. The Divine Zero, really the only one I'm not a massive fan of is Sambuca, but that's just like, I don't know. It's always kind of felt like the redheaded stepchild to me while listening to this album for whatever reason.
Yeah, right.
Just something that I can never quite retain. And I've listened to this record so many times. But yeah, I'm a fan of this record. It tails off what I think is a phenomenal 3-album run very nicely. Band explores a little bit, but ultimately kind of sticks to their roots, and doesn't go as weird as they then go with the next record that comes out 6 years later. They still kind of stick to what they are sonically, and I fuck with it. Big fan of this album, for sure.
So yeah, so I thought this record was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously, so I'm just gonna say it. So the middle part is obviously my favorite. I think the Divine Zero to Today I Saw the Whole World, I think, is an incredible 5 track run. I think it is flawless. I wouldn't change a single thing. I think it progresses very well. Floral and Fading specifically is one of my favorites because it reminds me of. Sorry, guys. I listened to Jaws of Life before Pierce the Veil's discography. I listened to that one album before anything else in the discography, besides obviously like King for a Day, Bulls in the Bronx, Besitos, and like Circles, obviously. Other than that, that was Jaws of Life was my album. So the first time I heard Floral and Fading in my ears, I've seen them live like 3 times, but fucking studio. It reminds me of the title track, Jaws of Life, because it has that um kind of like sluggish but still like blasting beat where it's just like it's powerful, but it's laid back. I don't know. It's just a very big track, and it's because of that it has a very soft spot for me because Jaws of Life title track is my personal favorite off of the album. I think it is a perfect song. I think it's fucking beautiful. um Dive In and Texas Is Forever, those being the 2 opening tracks, caught me so off guard because it sounds like they were trying to do something that they should never do ever again. It sounded like they were trying to be just a degular like metalcore band, and they were just like following a trend. And they were like, "This is a sound." It's like, you know how artists say they try not. Some say they try not to listen to music while they're working in the studio because then they're just gonna make that music. I feel like that's what happened with those tracks. They were listening to metalcore that was going off in 2016, and they accidentally made some because it sounds like someone imitating metalcore. It does not sound right. Because I always thought, because I remember when Jaws of Life came out, you said, "Oh my God, Pierce the Veil is metalcore again." I thought they were like way heavier, you know? So going through their discography, I was expecting, like the Asking Alexandria metalcore, where it's just kind of like that kind of darker, grimy sound. Haven't gotten that yet. Got a little bit on the last record, but again, it's with the bigger tracks, Bulls in the Bronx, that type of shit.
And I
But
only
it's
said that about Pest Nirvana because the rest of that album, they forgot that they
it
were a
was
heavy band at all.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, no, they came out with that song. Oh my God, they're heavy still. And then every song after that in the album, it's like, did we forget what we were originally? That we wrote riffs with
yeah,
heavy parts.
yeah. Fucked though. Shout out that album. Um, so that's just my little comparison. Yeah, Dive In, Texas Forever. I didn't like it because I think it's just because something I've heard so frequently. It didn't sound like Pierce the Veil, and I'm so cool with bands, trying out new things, switching the genre, but as long as they're making it their own. This just sounded like they were trying to be a cheap copy of something else. It didn't sound like it was Pierce the Veil tries metalcore. It just sounded like Pierce the Veil not trying to be Pierce the Veil. That makes sense? I hope so. Um, the second half of the record honestly didn't leave much of an impact on me. It was really that 5 track run that had me in a chokehold. It is obviously the bigger songs in that 5 track run. Floral and Fading, Circles, and Today I Saw the Whole World are 3 out of the 5 tracks that are massive and TikTok, and they always play it live and yada yada yada. So I'm more familiar with them, but there's a reason they're big. They're the biggest tracks on the record. Can't be mad at that. Yeah, other than that, I thought it was just fine. I think obviously it's a natural progression, as you said. Where do you go after you have an instant classic, an instant historical record, something that everyone going into the scene is going to listen to, you gotta go pop. You have to like distance yourself from that immediately, so then you don't get the, oh my God, they're washed up. They're trying to do, you have to take another step.
Mhm.
And I don't think that this was a step backwards. I think it was, it was like a small step forward because it did bridge the gap between it did build the bridge to Jaws of Life. And I think that's great.
One point you made that I wanted to call back to was when you were talking about, like, the slower tracks on the record not feeling like they're stagnating the track listing in any sort of way, and that's something that I felt throughout all of their albums. Is their ability to strip it back but continue to have things moving, and they could have several slow tracks in a row and it not feel like a slog. And I think part of that is their ability to make the songs feel so big, and then Vic's very driving vocals that keep the songs moving even if the instrumental isn't keeping the song moving at the pace that I want my music moving at, which is fast, gas, hardcore, all the time, always. They're able to keep it moving, and I really appreciate and like those songs on the albums, which typically I'd be like, ew, what do you mean slow song?
No.
Ew, bad, stinky. So yes, big fan of this band. Those are our thoughts on the 2016 album Misadventures. Next week will be the last Pierce the Veil review, and then beyond to a new discography. So we're taking suggestions. Let us know what you think we should chat about next, which discography we should dive into. We post them all here exclusively on YouTube, so subscribe to us here on YouTube. It does help us out a ton. You can follow us on Instagram, it's Good Noise Podcast. Facebook is Good Noise Pod. TikTok is Good Noise Podcast. Other streaming services are all Good Noise Podcast, and Patreon is patreon.com/Good Noise Podcast. Other than that, I've been Shane.
I've been Glory,
and we've been the Good Noise Podcast. See you next week. Bye.